Now, shall we get into it? The tactics. Let's start at the start. Selection and approach. How would you summarize it?
Yeah, so selections, and we said what he might do. We thought he would go Mount, Sesko, and Mbumo up top, and there was a small surprise in there. He's dropped Sesko, who'd scored 2 goals in 2 games, started to look sharp, hold up plays there. He's turning into space and using his sprints well. So it was a small surprise, given the fact we were going to go direct, given the fact we were going to go with a long ball approach. But I have to say, as we said at the start, Cunha was outstanding, and you've got to give credit to Amorim for choosing that approach. Would I still have gone Sesko? Yeah, I mean we've won 2-1 at Anfield. It, you can't analyze it too much when that happens.
Yeah.
But it is interesting just trying to understand the way a manager works. And yeah, the thinking would have been Cunha, if once the second ball's won, we might not win the ball against Van Dijk, who does mop up everything in the air. And Kanate is not too shabby either. Then the idea is to win those second balls, get Mount, Cunha, and Bruno forming that triangle around there, getting hold of the ball, giving it to Bruno and Cunha, and letting them keep hold of the ball, starting to play make, starting to spread the play. So you've got to give credit to that. It's worked today, and that's what happened. Um, yeah, exactly. So then Maguire's the other one that was a slight surprise.
I mean, we all love Lenny Yoro. I don't know a United fan who doesn't love
Yeah.
Lenny Yoro, and it feels honestly like a privilege to be watching him learn his trade. He had a great little cameo at Anfield last season
Mhm.
with that brilliant slide tackle or side tackle, really, to clear the danger. Yeah, it's beautiful. So I think generally most people would have been expecting and hoping to see him start today. But, making do with a cameo and a victory, he'll take it, won't he?
Yeah, absolutely. You've just got to take it. And interestingly, when you look at the doubts of them, we said in the preview, if it's going to be delayed, we need to be careful it doesn't go too high and jump too much, especially with the way Gakpo can perform. And I thought Gakpo was superb today. Complete
Yeah.
contrast to Salah. And the worry there is Dillit would go too high like the Chelsea match, would be more of a 4-4-2 out of possession, and there would be spaces in behind. So that was the worry, which is why we considered Maguire, but we didn't think he'd start. But kudos, he's kept that back three quite flat. Maguire won everything. De Ligt won most things, but there was 2 or 3 occasions where he's let Gakpo in far too easily, especially
Mm.
the headed missed open
Oof.
net right at the end.
Yeah.
For the goal, De Ligt just gets the slight nudge of Salah, which was clever by Salah when you watch it back. He's nudged De Ligt in the 6 yard box to make space. Gakpo then comes across, but De Ligt just has to keep strong. Don't let Salah do that, and just
Mm.
keep goal side of Gakpo, and then Gakpo doesn't equalise. So there's still a couple of things there. De Ligt misses a header at the far post when they hit the crossbar in about the 65th minute. So there's a couple of things there, but generally speaking, they did really well. And interestingly, Luke Shaw was asked to look after Isaac for the most part. So that
Yeah.
was the most interesting aspect of the lot. Whenever Isaac was central or to their right side, Shaw was asked to follow him out, and I thought Shaw did a splendid job. We said he looked more like himself against Sunderland after a couple of not terrible games at all, but some very indifferent games. Luke Shaw was superb. He was first to most things tonight when it involved Isaac. I remember the one-on-one duel where the ball's bouncing and the ball's free, and Shaw just goes 100%, takes the ball, and that was just showed the confidence of the team. Really, I'm going to win that. I'm not going to hesitate, and I'm going to take the ball and the man. So I think kudos to Shaw as well. I think we all looked to that and thought we've got De Ligt, Maguire, and Shaw. It's not the fastest back three at all. If they were going to lose their kind of positional aspect in rest defence, it was going to be a bit of a worry in truth. But they've all come through it really well, aided by the wing backs, which was also a selection dilemma, wasn't it?
It was. Detractors, because there always are detractors, it's unavoidable, will say Liverpool didn't play well. You want you got a late 2-1 win. Well done, nice one. Liverpool were poor. Why were they poor?
So again, it goes back to slots dilemmas and the idea that yes, they have had a wonderful transfer window. When you look at the actual individuals and
Mhm.
uh, who they needed and who they've actually brought in, it was round holes, round pegs. In fairness, and but there are obviously two key things to talk about there. You've got Verts, who, if you said at the start of the season he wouldn't be starting at Anfield against your biggest rival, the biggest club in England and the UK, if not the world, Manchester United, then your eyebrows would raise. And but what we did say is that if he played Verts, it would work into our favour. So you could argue he's got that bit right. He's then probably got another piece of the puzzle right today. He's decided Szoboszlai in the 10, and he's gone Bradley. So he's understood that Szoboszlai is his most informed player in a sense. Well, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, Gakpo, and he's ensured that they're in the right areas of the field. But what it's done is you've still got the issue about how to get the ball to Salah, how to get the ball to Isaac. So when the two, let's say biggest goal threats are not getting on the ball at the right times, and you see Isaac taking snapshots, you see Salah having that one or two big moments. Certainly the one at the far post where Dorgu's made a bit of a mess, and he's literally he's come across it the wrong way with his left foot, and it's gone wide, thankfully. You know that there's going to be issues for them, and that's been Arne Slot's um, dilemma all season. We said, in the preview, if you're winning goals in the 97th minute, and one was the 100th minute,
Yeah.
and you're winning in the 93rd and 97th and 100th minute, there's something not quite right, and I knew this would come for them, and thankfully it's landed at the time we play them because they are not building in the right way. They don't know if they're transition or tempo based. They don't know whether they're building in the kind of pragmatic way they did last season. Their midfield three, or well, it's 2-3-1, and last year it was more of a 4-3-3, is a big conundrum for Slot. Now he's got Verts. Jones is being overlooked when he's one of their best ball players. McAllister's dropped out of form. So the list goes on and on. And the idea, I think, as the season goes on, will be to get the likes of Jones in there, Vert starting to play in the right position, and even Ekatike getting more game time.
Well, those three players that you just mentioned there, they all came on in a triple sub just after the hour, which did change the momentum a little bit, would you say?
I mean, you've got to say that. We then dropped into more of a 5-4-1. Before that, we weren't 5-2-3 or 4-4-2, which has been the case in recent games. We were more of a 5-3-2, which is really interesting. Um, I think that took boldness, in fairness. So it meant that Mount would tuck in very narrow alongside Bruno and Casemiro, which is something we worried about, that midfield overload from Liverpool. And Cunha and Mbeumo were just interchanging. Yes, it was mostly Mbeumo there, but often you'd see Cunha roll around to that right side. And we just became very narrow in retreat. And then we got the back five to kind of match their front three, which is what you always want is the +2. So yeah, good shape. 5-4-1 near the end, if we're being completely honest, certainly last 20 where they've made those changes. The triple sub came on about 62 minutes, and they've gone to a 4-2-4, which is what we've seen from Slot when he's chasing games or he's playing weaker opposition. And it played into our hands in a sense. Yes, they've had those two or three shooting opportunities in the last 5 minutes, but overall we've kept them pretty quiet, haven't we? And we've soaked up that pressure. Ugarte was getting onto the ball, or certainly getting onto scraps. Bruno was deep for the most part, although I could have, as I said, I could have hooked him at one point where there was three times they ran off his shoulder and had chances to create in front of Le Mans. But yeah, a good shape. And what this effectively meant was when we did get the ball, you've got Cunha and Mbeumo to look for. That classic kind of two striker, two forward approach that we said would come come back in due course. We've been missing it in the Premier League for what seems like decades now, but um, teams are starting to switch it up a bit and become a bit more nuanced on the counter. And then Mount would go up and support that, and Bruno would come up. And there was kind of like that box, if you like. You got Cunha behind and Mbumo, and then Mount would come in, Bruno would come in there, and Casemiro. So it's like a box come diamond in the second stage. So the first stage is 5-4-1. The second stage now, maybe we've got the ball, we're coming out. It was more like a diamond, and that worked really well. Keep the ball in close proximity, and then look to get wide into Ahmad and Dallo. So yeah, really positive. We can't say much more than that, can we? We got the result.
Yes, we did indeed. Just a bit, having mentioned obviously Liverpool subs, thoughts on Ruben's subs?
Yeah, a little bit worrying initially, if I'm going to be
Mhm.
completely honest. I'm not sure whether Casemiro was injured as he got the yellow card. I thought it was a good
Seems to be,
foul.
yeah.
And yeah, he seemed to be. So it was a good foul, gets the yellow card. That was obviously the right call. Is he injured? If he is, then obviously Ugarte, like we said, he seemed to be getting prepared very quickly after that challenge, Ugarte. Um, could we have looked at Mainu? I don't know. I still see that as when we're looking to hold on to a win or a point, we I'd much prefer us to keep the ball, and Mainu does that 10 times better than
Yeah.
Ugarte. But if we're talking about today, did Ugarte nip at their heels? Did he get his foot in? Yes, for the most part. I think for their goal, he could have nicked it in the penalty area just as Gakpo's moving left to right. I think he has two chances to do so, but I'm being a bit critical on Ugarte. Um, he does do well overall when he comes on, and you can understand that is Amorim's sub. He sees Casemiro and Ugarte, and he sees Fernandez and Mainu. Um, and then we see Dorgu. He was prepared, and he comes on for Ahmad. Again, if we're talking at the time, not with hindsight, and not talking about what's happened after the game and the win. I did think that was a tiny bit negative as well. Now, we did say we thought Dorgu might start at left wing back. That
Mhm.
was then the preference was given to the relationship between Dallo and Mount. And although Dallo loses his head a couple of times, he kicks the ball rashly in the first half twice to Isaac in his own area. He did okay overall, Dallo, to be fair. So that wasn't a big issue. Then Dorgu comes on for Ahmad, and I'm thinking, okay, right, he's on the yellow, but certainly we can't just be substituting players as soon as they get cautions. There's got to be a bit more nuance to it, right? And Ahmad was having a great game. I'm not a believer in bringing up players who are in the zone mentally. That he'd been defending well all game. I know Gakpo had that breakaway where he hit the post when Salah finds him really well, and I know Gakpo hits the bar later as well from the back post. But they weren't necessarily on Ahmad, especially the first one. Ahmad was in the right position, and it was just intercepted in the midfield. So. I was a bit cautious of Ahmad going off, if I'm being completely honest. If it was going to be Dorgu, it would have been for Dallo, in my view, at that point, because Dallo was just a bit positionally suspect, losing his head a bit, um, going into challenges a bit rashly. So that was the one that surprised me. But and then if you do look at it, I do wonder why Dorgu came on at all. So it is all about what we don't know, right? So we don't know how Dorgu's done since coming back from the Denmark break. We know he played well out there on international duty, but when he comes on today, he's just not. He's not with it. I'm afraid to say. So then I'm just thinking that shouldn't have happened. If Ahmad's going to come off, it shouldn't be Dorgu coming on. I think he's lost Salah a couple of times in really dangerous moments. He's missed headers at the back post. He's still going to ground too easily for me, Dorgu, looking for that free kick. The Italian league, we are not. So there was a few things there where, again, Dorgu's got it left side, where he could easily reach that ball in the final third. It's going towards the goal line, and he just doesn't sprint for it. He takes his time. He thinks he's going to get it, so it's kind of a casual piece of play. Had he won that ball, we've got Mbumo in the box. We've got Bruno coming in, and there's a real opportunity for 2-0 there. So. Um, Yeah, it's one of them where I wasn't impressed there at all. And then when he does come on, I'm thinking, well, if he was like that, he shouldn't be entering the pitch. Later on, I think there are more sensible substitutions. Sesko comes on, holds the ball tremendously well, as we said. There's the bit that leads to the Maguire goal where he just brings it down, does a kind of like Zidane-like turn with his control between two players, then plays the through ball. And that effectively, moments later leads to the Szoboszlai throw and the corner, and then we score from it. So Sesko was looking sharp, so maybe that was the idea to bring him on later, get more control of the game. Cobby comes on and does what we expect. He was closing down well. He does
Mm.
cover ground. He does get back in. He does keep that central midfield shape. We then play with a three effectively, either Cunha and Mbumo dropping in. So we're playing that three in the middle zone, as we said earlier. And then as soon as the ball went wide, it was Cobby or Bruno who was asked to go out and press the ball with Ugarte sitting in. So yeah, subs, if we're going to look at it that way, 7 out of 10. We can't go lower than that on a win at Anfield. But there was a couple of questions. If Casemiro is injured, I can understand hooking him straight away. But I thought he was having a great game again. Neville tweeted that he was surprised that he was starting after 180 minutes in Brazil. That's not how it works at big games. You need your best players in there. Casemiro's been a revelation in the last, well, 8 months as far as I can remember. And people are still not talking about him, and it really frustrates me. He's been an absolute, pleasure in that central midfield and covering, all the field that Bruno doesn't in behind the Portuguese. So I thought he was superb today. Yes, I would have hooked him at some point. I'm not saying that. And if he was injured, of course, it's the right thing. But yeah, that's where I stand with that one.
And on the manager, it's a big win for him, isn't it? Really big win.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we said beforehand this could change the fortunes of either manager. I mean, we said Slot has issues in the micro, Amorim has issues in the macro, um, but there's no reason why this can't be that boost you need, certainly in the micro for Amorim. And he has to, take this back-to-back win and take it into the Brighton game. It's not that we should, blow Brighton out of the water. We want a solid performance. We want some principles we see that are consistent. We want selections to be, I say correct, but it means the principles behind the selections correct. We want consistency in that, and not just, cautious, um, the same kind of routine substitutions that we see. The main who is Fernandez, Ugarte is Casemiro, Yoro comes on for Delit, Mazraoui comes on for Dallo. We want to see some consistency and some nuance to it. And if we get the performance against Brighton, then you know what, we lose 1-0 in the 94th minute. That's not too shabby. We want, as long as the performance is there and we're seeing the underlying structures being adhered to or tweaked in the right way.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Amorim has let himself down. He has stuck religiously, not just to 3-4-2-1, but the out of possession shape too much. It's been a 5-2-3 for the majority of the season and last. And what that means for those that are thinking it's too much jargon is effectively it means you're too deep as a defense if you're always going five.
Mm.
There's a reason when you play threes that the wing backs then make that second line and then they make the third and fourth lines, and we're not seeing that enough. We're seeing too vertical in central midfield where Casemiro's too deep, Bruno's too far ahead, and that big space in between. So, and then we're looking at Mbeumo and Cunha in normal sense, not today's game, uh, being too narrow and not hitting the touchline soon enough. So there tends to be this kind of frenetic approach when we're going forward. So what we want to see is more of what we've just seen at Anfield, and I think that's
Yeah.
not too much to ask. Let's build on this. This could be big for Amorim, but it's on him to prove that it's a good thing for him and his future at Manchester United. And at the moment,
Yeah.
to date, we haven't seen that. So this is his chance.
I think even if you take the coach out of the equation, over the last years, the post-Ferguson years, we've been here before so often where we pulled out a big win, often away from home, whether it's City, whether it's Liverpool, Arsenal, whoever. And the line afterwards is always the same. It's like, this isn't where we should be. It needs to be the start of something. But I think, as you kind of alluded to there, this it needs to be the start of something less conventional, not just like a new era of dominance. It needs to be that this is the baseline for behavior and endeavor and focus and teamwork. That's what it has to be. It has to be the start of that, doesn't it? Like you say, the result not doesn't matter next weekend, but the performance is more important than the result.
Yeah, definitely. It was the key criticism under Solskjaer. It was the same later on with Ten Hag, and it's the same with Amorim. So we're not pinning everything on Ruben. We know it's a cultural reset. We know what's happening at board level. We know the transfers have, had largely been correct this summer, but it's been you can't correct everything in one transfer window, right? Or two or three. So that's all well and good, but what we then need to see is the coach to maximize his potential, maximize what he can do on the field and off, on the training field, and that's what we now need to see. So, like you've just alluded to, it's not the back-to-back wins. It's not can we beat Brian to make it three in a row. It's can we see a way forward? Can we see a cohesive structure? Can we see what he's trying to do from selections to systems to processes, trying to reduce some of his reluctance on certain things and caution and this obsession with changing the centre back and fitness, looking at fitness. It's those things that just need to be ironed out, which I think he can do. I can't remember who said it the other day. It was an analyst on TV, and they said, you know what, he's got the capability to do this. Yes, he's young. Yes, he might be a little bit inexperienced to have come at so early in his career to Old Trafford, but he has got that. There is something there. There's a not just a charisma in the way he speaks. There is a coaching philosophy that could work. I think it was Miguel Delaney actually, and it's just breaking out and then it goes back in. And I think it was the same under Ten Hag. It's put these performances in against the Brightons, the Bournemouths, the West Hams, the Aston Villas of the world, that middle of the table, often higher than us at present, and in that kind of, often sixth, fifth, seventh place team. Bournemouth are flying at the moment, of course. But
Mm.
generally speaking, in the last 2 to 3 seasons, those are the games where we've not done ourselves justice. And it can't just be the adrenalized performance at Anfield or the last minute win at the Etihad last season, etc. It's got to be carried in more fluently into the games that follow, and that's Amorim's task. And if he doesn't complete that task, then it sadly will be down to him and him only.
I think the just to wrap up, one of the major criticisms we've had, the recurring criticisms we've had, is that we're so easy to play against. Well, that hasn't been the case today. It wasn't the case against Sunderland, who, have pulled out another good result this weekend. They're above us in the table. They're doing very well. Um, what's the point I'm trying to make here? It's that's what you want to see, isn't it, against Brighton? Because I mean, they are a bogey team essentially. They
Hmm.
constantly, whoever the coach is, they come, whoever the players are, they outwit us, and they always make it look so easy, like it was just really no big shakes at all, just wandering into Old Trafford and just taking 3 points. What the fundamental you want to see on Saturday is that whoever gets the points, it really has to work for it, rather than just us looking kind of clueless. Like, go back to last December against Bournemouth, for example. It's often been the same script playing out with just different opposition, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. The teams have come to Old Trafford often, whether it's Old Trafford or the away game, and they realise what they have to do. It doesn't take an elite coach, sadly, in the last 6 to 12 months, whether that was just into Ten Hag's reign and now under Amorim, where you go there with a bit of nuance, a bit of skills on the front foot, understanding your role, what you've worked on all week, and you'll beat Manchester United, or you'll certainly get a draw. And that just can't be the case. And that's been the frustration, certainly in recent years. Um, More latterly, what has that meant? Well, it's meant that if you stop Euro and Shaw coming out from the wide centre back area, you just bring one of your wide players in to do that. You'll pin our back line. You'll allow the central midfield to run off, often Bruno, but let's say our double pivot in there, and you'll get a 5v4 or a 6v5 against us in transition, and you'll create opportunities. And that's just been the case. And that's any duo in midfield. Often Ugarte's in there, and he's still not holding his position. He's asked to press high in this 5-2-3, and you see Ugarte go, you see Bruno go, and you just you know what's coming. They're gonna get the ball. They're gonna go through that interior kind of middle zone, in behind, out wide, round, and that's when goal scoring opportunities are created against us. So it is on Ruben and the coaching staff to look at that. He has in recent games. We've seen Mount tucked in against Sunderland. We've seen Cunha's quite unique role tonight. We've seen Ahmad not so deep, and Dallo. We've seen, yes, they were near the end, of course they were. But what we've seen today is keeping that line of four in front of the back three, and that's so important. So when you build, it is like a 2-3-5 in a way. When you're building out, and so you've got players ahead of you, so balls can be played forward. And the criticism of Amorim, as we've just alluded to, is that often we're too deep. So when we do get it, Dalot, Dorgu, whoever, Ahmad in the wing back position, we're almost on our 6 yard line or goal line, and then we've got to try and build. So we're going into an inverted Delit or Casemiro who drops to the side of Delit. We then try and turn, and long and Pill were pressed, and then off the opposition goal. So that's been the frustration. We've seen signs of a turnaround against Sunderland and today at Anfield. And it's about keeping that sort of structured spaces in between the lines, whether that's narrow 4-4-2 with Cunha and Mount dropping in, or keeping it a 5-3-2 as we saw today with Cunha and Bumo or Sesko later on high. And it's keeping those principles and understanding which of your position is playing. So quick one on Brighton. We know Van Hecke likes to play out. So I wouldn't mind seeing a similar system today. Yeah. So two are stopping Van Hecke playing out from the back and playing it into Baleba and playing forward. So it's just about those little things that Amorim has not been getting correct. But today should be that momentum push, that big win that allows him to do that. And let's get up that table. Let's get him sick of us seeing us in the kind of lower echelons. And this is his chance. Let's see if we can do it.